Good afternoon, everyone. His Excellency Sagi Karni, the Ambassador of Israel to Singapore, esteemed guests, ladies and gentlemen from Singapore, Israel, and all parts of the world, welcome to Singapore Business Federation's webinar on cloud optimization and automation. My name is Karina Brown, and I will be your host today for the next 60 minutes. I would like to thank our co-organizer, Embassy of Israel, and Israel's Economic and Trade Mission to Singapore. Thank you so much for your help in making this event come true. Additionally, I would like to thank our partners. We have been delighted to have many partners in this event. Thank you, Singapore Computer Society and the Cloud Computing Chapter. We will be hearing from our guest speaker soon. Thank you also, Singapore Tech, the Association of Information Security Professionals, and the Cloud Security Alliance. Thank you so much to all these partners. Next, I would be saying just a few words about the disclaimer. So, dear esteemed guests, all information provided today is intended for your general information only and does not convey any legal advice. All the materials in this webinar belong to the organizers and the speakers. This webinar is being recorded and will be posted on Singapore Business Federation's YouTube channel. And we will be also sharing the slides with you at the Singapore Global Connect website. So by default, you would be muted when you have joined our webinar. Otherwise, please also keep the microphone muted throughout the session. If you have questions, we welcome questions from all attendees. Please type them in the question and answer box, and we can read out them later, or even the speakers will be answering the questions during the webinar. Next, we are delighted about our exciting program. There are many interesting things happening today. We will be hearing from 3 cloud technology companies from Israel. You will be hearing about Singapore's cloud framework, and you will be welcomed by the Israeli ambassadors. Before we go to our exciting program, we will be showing the Singapore Global Connect video for you.
Global Connect at SBF helps Singapore businesses expand into overseas markets. Since November 2019, we have guided Singapore businesses as they seize business opportunities in Asia and beyond. From identifying emerging trends to closing deals, we provide a full spectrum of overseas business expansion services. With Global Connect at SBF, you can learn about new markets, customers, and free trade agreements across the globe. Land opportunities and scale up in new markets, both physically and digitally. Localize overseas operations to ensure sustainable long-term success. Our Singapore Enterprise Centres in Indonesia and Vietnam also provide on-the-ground business and market development services. We also provide a dedicated digital B2B marketplace to quickly scale your business overseas. With Global Connect B2B, set up your company profile in minutes and start contacting thousands of regional partners and customers. Last year, Global Connect at SBF reached out to over 2,000 companies, completing many overseas expansion projects through its network of trusted business specialists and professionals. In 2021, Global Connect at SBF will also launch new initiatives for Singapore businesses to position themselves on the international stage. Explore business opportunities across ASEAN, South Asia, Japan, and other markets by joining us at Festival, our flagship digital event. Become part of the Global Connect at SBF community today and start enjoying exclusive benefits. Customized business advice, access to our overseas Singapore enterprise centers, preferential rates for services, as well as structured training, one-on-one advisory, and assistance on using free trade agreements to extract greater commercial advantages abroad. Global Connect at SBF, connecting your business to global opportunities.
That was our 3-minute video about Global Connect at SBF. In a summary, we connect your business to global opportunities. Learn with Global Connect at SBF about new markets, customers, and free trade agreements. Land with Global Connect at SBF through our networks and hands-on advice. Localize with Global Connect at SBF. And deepen your market presence abroad. These slides will be shared with you afterwards as well, so you can connect us later. Now, ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor to present to you our first speaker, His Excellency Sagi Karni, the Ambassador of Israel to Singapore. Welcome, welcome, Ambassador.
Hello, hello, and good morning in Israel, and good afternoon in Singapore. As you can see, I'm joining you from Jerusalem. You can see the beautiful blue sky. It's very sunny and very hot in Jerusalem. I'm on a visit here, and I would like to welcome you all to this webinar on cloud technologies. Can you still hear me?
Yes, yes, Ambassador.
Okay. First, I would like to thank the Singapore Business Federation for being our partners, and the economic department in our embassy for organizing it. As you all know, the pandemic actually created a situation where a lot of businesses are actually decentralized, and with this phenomena, there is a larger demand for cloud technologies to enable businesses to function properly and even better. We're unable, of course, to bring all companies from Israel who are specialized on cloud technology, but I'm hopeful that with this webinar, we'll create more opportunities and more knowledge about our capabilities here in Israel. And you're all welcome to come and visit more. In any event, after this webinar, if you need more information, please contact the Economic and Trade Department of our embassy, and they will be very happy to provide you with more contacts, more information. And with that, I would like to wish you all a very successful and interesting webinar, and see you when I'm back in Singapore. Goodbye.
Thank you, Ambassador Sagi Karni. Now I have the pleasure to welcome our first guest speaker of today, Mr. Raju Chellam, Fellow of the Singapore Computer Society. Welcome, Mr. Raju Chellam.
Thank you, Karina. Shalom to all our Israeli friends, and a warm good afternoon to all our Singapore brethren. I have just 6 slides, and I'm going to go through it fast. on the Singapore Cloud Framework, and I'm going to talk about ABCDEF, the applications on the cloud, the business potential of the cloud, the commercial or the major issue in the cloud, digital natives, which is a Singapore initiative, PDPA, which is also a Singapore initiative, and a final slide. And this is what I do in my free time. As you can see, I have a lot of free time. So let's go forward. Top applications in the cloud. If you just look at all the applications, the top 3 applications are AI, big data, and cybersecurity. And these 3 together combined worldwide are almost $100 billion business according to IDC. AI is the smallest of the group because it's the fastest catching up with a compound annual growth rate of about 33% per annum. And Singapore is at the forefront of this. We have a lot of initiatives to boost or embed AI into all our applications. Again, when you see the cloud in Singapore, according to the Boston Consulting Group, most large enterprises in Singapore have begun to use some form of cloud storage or computing. Singapore enterprises are starting to tap into more advanced uses such as AI and machine learning. The SaaS model, which is software as a service, is currently 45% of this pie, but PaaS, which is platform as a service, is the fastest growing segment in Singapore. So the reason I'm saying this is because cloud is not a stagnant entity. And as we go more towards XaaS, which is everything as a service, you will see more uses of SaaS, PaaS, IaaS, security as a service, AI as a service, even hacking as a service, which is available on the dark web. Which brings me to the most important slide, which is cybersecurity. And I'm glad to say Israel is the world leader in ensuring cybersecurity for enterprises and governments. So the key point here is, if you see 2018 was the first time in the history of mankind when a human-made attack overtook natural disasters for the first time in the history of mankind. So cybersecurity became the #1 issue, and data fraud and theft started taking off in 2018 and 2019. And now if you see the 2020 slide, which I don't have right now, it has gone up to #1. Extreme weather is #2 because the number of hacking incidents, the number of ransomware, and the number of attacks that are happening on large enterprises, government entities has overtaken extreme weather in the amount that is lost by businesses and enterprises in 2020 and 2021. So that's why it's so very important that we should collaborate more with Israeli companies who are at the forefront of cybersecurity. So this is a pure Singapore slide. SMEs are at the heart of Singapore's economy, as are they in the heart of Israel's economy. I have been fortunate enough to visit Israel twice, and I found that there is so much energy and focus on growing startups, on getting into tech areas which are very, very new and very focused on making a global footprint. So SMEs employ 66% of Singapore's workforce and contribute about 50% of Singapore's GDP. So the government has come out with focused initiatives for cloud computing for SMEs. We have the Go Cloud Native program. We have the SMEs Go Digital Native program. And then we also have the Government Commercial Cloud, GCC, where all of the government applications are available for use for enterprises. And you can also do your POCs, proofs of concept, and innovative sandboxes on the Government Commercial Cloud. Okay, There are two issues in the cloud. One is security, and of course, the other is privacy. So Singapore has taken a very firm initiative in the Trusted Data Sharing Framework, where the framework is intended for use in the commercial and non-governmental sectors, but excludes data sharing in or with the public sector. So why is this important? Because data is not just the new oil, but data is the engine that keeps all businesses running, especially in the COVID economy. So there are safeguards as well, like the PDPA, which is the Personal Data Protection Act, and Singapore was one of the first countries in ASEAN to implement and enforce the PDPA through the PDPC, which is the Personal Data Protection Commission. And one of the key issues there is all employees need to be updated and kept current on the policies of the PDPA. The reason is because data sharing is not just free, but data sharing is allowed in Singapore as long as PII, or personally identifiable information, is subjected to adequate safeguards and is secure and kept out of the public's eye. Okay. I happen to be the chairman of the Cloud and Data Standards for the ITSC, which is the IT Standards Committee, which is a Government of Singapore entity. And we have two initiatives which might be useful for all enterprises in Singapore as well as Israel to take note. One is the security standard, and the other side of the coin is the availability standard. So this applies to cloud service providers. And on the one hand, we want to ensure that cloud is always available for mission critical applications. And on the other side of the coin, we want to ensure that there are no outages and there is security standards and protocols in place, for which there is the multi-tier cloud security standard, which is MTCS, which is the green side, and the red side is outage, which is the cloud outage incidents response. Both of these guidelines are available for free for download at the IMDA website. And I would urge each one of you, if you are a user or a service provider, to go and download both these guidelines, because in case of breach, not only the penalties are high, there is also a risk of reputational damage. And of course, there is also the other side of the coin, which is the consumer side or the enterprise side. So it's not entirely on the hands of the CSP or the cloud service provider to ensure security, but as the user of the cloud, you also have certain guidelines to put in place to ensure that when there is an outage or when there is a security breach, here are the following things you need to do, and that will protect you not only from liability, but from reputational damage as well. This is my last slide. This is my email address. Feel free to email me anywhere, anytime, on any device, and I will get back to you as soon as possible. And shalom, and have a good afternoon. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Raju Chellam. Very interesting presentation. Raju's slides will be uploaded later at Global Connect website. Thank you. Next, I would like to welcome our first cloud technology speaker, Mr. Lior Redlus, co-founder and head of solution engineering from Coralogix. Please welcome Lior Redlus.
Hello, everyone. I presume that you can see my my video. Now I can see me in focus. I'm sure you can see me as well. So pleasure to meet you all. I've been introduced already, so you can see my title here, but also my email. If you have any questions throughout the presentation, you can ask here, but later on, feel free to send me an email. Definitely open for any questions or any companies that are interested in our technology, and let's present what we have here for today. So Coralogix is basically a stateful streaming analytics platform that monitors logs, metrics, and security. And to understand what we do differently, we first need to understand what's the main paradigm of the monitoring market in the last 20 years or so. And this is something that we can see on the screen here. It's basically ingesting the data into a centralized platform. Then we need to index that data into a data source. And only once it is indexed, we can then analyze the data. And the fact that we're connecting between indexing and analyzing actually creates a lot of issues here, because some of them are technical, where we can have problems in the indexing, where documents are rejected or there are mapping exceptions or other technical issues. And then we get in our analysis false positives or false negatives that harm our ability to monitor correctly. But the other one is actually much more business oriented. And that's the fact that in the last 5 years, and definitely moving forward, companies are generating data faster than they are generating revenue. And that means that these two cannot stay together in a constant ratio that makes sense to the business. I'm going to skip all of the different companies and processes that have changed monitoring alongside this. You'll get this presentation at the end, so you can look these through, but eventually present what we do differently. And that's the fact that we analyze in streaming before indexing. And that's by breaking this connection between indexing and analyzing, it means that we can do a lot of different things. It's patented by 3 different patents that we have sent and we call Streamer, this technology. It is powered by machine learning to help us reveal anomalous behavior and run dynamic threshold alerting, a lot of different things that are the keystone of what we're looking at monitoring today, and also find ourselves in CI/CD, cloud native, and scale in terms of modern environments, fitting modern environments. So what's different about this modern observability platform? Basically, the fact that you decouple analysis from indexing means you can get full coverage of your data alongside reducing costs of storage by 70%. We analyze it with machine learning to run all of these different thresholds, and that means we can reduce the mean time to detect issues and definitely also the mean time to recover from issues. The fact that we're completely SaaS means it scales automatically. There are no unpredictable costs or spikes that prevent the service from running. As we're born in the cloud, we also fit CI/CD, the continuous deployment of new code that makes monitoring much more difficult, and we have specific tools for that. And we use across the platform open source software syntax. So that means there is no vendor lock-in, and it fits any engineer that works in the industry. Secure by design means we have all security compliances like SOC 2, PCI, HIPAA, also privacy compliances like GDPR and Privacy Shield, and all of these are available on our website. We're very open about these documents. And the 3 use cases are for log analytics, for metrics, and for security data. Eventually, ingesting data into Coralogix is super easy. You can see just a sum of more of the 100 integrations that we have. And the idea is to rely again on open source collectors in order to prevent any vendor lock-in. And it's super easy to ship data to our platform. Now, once data is actually ingested, it moves through our load balancers to the service and then moves into Streamer. And that's the unique part of this slide. It basically allows you to change the data on the fly without changing the code. So you save the precious R&D time that is needed for this by doing this online and not with an engineer. And then it moves to the analysis pipeline, which provides you with a live tail, with data enrichment, with clustering of the data, extraction of metrics, the most advanced alerting mechanism on the market, and team and role-based access control to make sure that only the right engineers have access to their data and not to anything else. And all of these basically create the insights that we provide out of the box by advanced alerting, automatic anomalies, CI/CD benchmarks, the new version benchmarks that I mentioned before, and long-term visualizations. Eventually, this data is kept at the client's S3 bucket. That means that he owns the data. The main copy of the data is owned by the client in an S3 bucket. And also, you can choose whether you want to index it into a hot index. And that's the decoupling that we made. The analysis is done before indexing, and you can get all of these rich features beforehand. Eventually, when pushing data to Coralogix, any data, any dashboard, any syntax can be used in order to consume the data, that data. And that means it is part of our proprietary purpose-built UI. Kibana as an open source, most prevalent open source log analysis tool is also part of the product, but connecting it to Grafana or using SQL syntax to query the data, using Tableau for BI analysts or security analysts is also something that is very easy. And we also support CLI and API. So it basically means that Coralogix is a data analysis platform where you can push any data in and you can consume it however you want. And the advanced analysis allows you to reduce these MTTT and MTTL. To some use cases. The first and most classic one is log analytics and monitoring. By analyzing and visualizing the data and without indexing, we can actually provide proactive insights without the breakage of the budget. No cost limitations there. For AWS, we actually have a very easy way to centralize all the logs, but not only from a technical point of view of gathering these logs into Coralogix. We're actually an advanced technology partner of AWS. We're listed in the marketplace, and it means that it is very easy for the business organization to actually run all the compliance and procurement processes to Coralogix. And finally, we actually have a security product that can cover all of your AWS account within 3 clicks, which is super unique and is super interesting offering on the market. The Cicd integration is what I mentioned before. It is part of a broader theme of seeing software that is changing constantly, and is something that is very hard to monitor when you have something that just changes again and again and again. And companies today are actually deploying several times a day. And what we have is actually an integration to all the Cicd tools, whether it is Jenkins or Circle CI or JFrog or others. And it allows you to actually run a version benchmark from a logs point of view. So you can understand what's changed based on a specific version. And it's super unique. It can help you detect issues that you had no idea are happening, the unknowns that are so hard to find. As a homegrown alternative, this actually can reduce a lot of the overhead of maintenance a homegrown solution. It means that you can effortlessly scale, it is secured, it is compliant, and you have 24/7 support with something that is out of this world for anything on the market, with less than 1 minute of average response time from a human. So as a big organization, that is always an issue to deploy a new system to it, the fact that we have 24/7 support helps you make sure that each engineer, the top one and the new one that has just joined the company, can have the same level of service and understanding of the new platform. As cost optimization is something that I mentioned before, whether which types of data you need to index and which will just go to the archive for you for a later analysis. And this actually provides the lowest two use cases by not indexing or by not even analyzing, actually provides 60% and 85% discounts. So it allows companies to monitor much more data in the same budget, or actually reduce the budget much greatly by using the right use cases in Coralogix instead of indexing everything like all other solutions. Lastly, this is an emerging topic that we're seeing as in DevOps in general and in companies R&D monitoring in general, and that's contextual data. That's the fact that we have so many resources today that affect how production is running, like the cloud availability reports by AWS notifying there's an issue on a service, or CICD events that I mentioned. There could be other systems that are triggering some events. third-party status pages. All of these can actually be ingested easily into Coralogix and make sure that you have a single platform to track everything that affects your production. And it helps you reduce, again, the mean time to detect and mean time to resolve issues. Some of our customers that you can see here is just, of course, a small list out of the 2,000 paying customers that we have. Some of them are more known, and I'm just going to take one example here from Monday.com, which has been recently listed on NASDAQ. And by using Coralogix, they were able to grow 10 times, 10x on their log volume, still save $100,000 a year, and reduce their mean time to resolve issues by 60%. And that's just a typical example of how companies that use Coralogix actually gain value. So thank you very much. If there are any questions, feel free to send it over in the Q&A box here, or otherwise to my email if you have something that pops up to your mind later on.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lior Redlus. And now I have the pleasure to welcome our next speaker, Mr. Asaf Ezra, co-founder and CEO of Granulate. Welcome, Asaf Ezra.
Thank you, Karina, and thank you everyone for joining us today. I will walk you through what Granulate is. In a nutshell, we call it real-time continuous optimization. Basically, Granulate wants to help companies handle their workloads with anywhere between 20 and all the way up to 80% performance improvements. Our emphasis is on the performance improvements, but as you can see, a lot of our customers also choose to take that into cost reduction. You've got some of the numbers that we've been getting with our customers here. You can also see them on our website through our success stories. But I think the more important part is the no-code changes. The premise behind Granulate is that everyone is using Linux operating system in their production system, which is probably 80 to 85% true. And Linux was built with a user behind the keyboard in mind, meaning everything's aimed at interactivity and fairness. You can see the completely fair scheduler, the completely fair queue, and so on. But in a production system, there's a different set of circumstances that would allow us to gain a lot more from each of these machines. First of all, our optimization function, and the one that we're monitoring for, is response time, latency, throughput, which could be requests per second, queries per second, IOPS, whatnot. And the second part is that we have applications doing the same thing over and over again. Granted, with different data for each user or for each query and so on. But we could create a graph to follow how the computing goes around. And if you could do that on a graph level, and you could do that in the most granular level of the machine itself, which is the resources, maybe you could create something that's a lot more tailored to the application. And I'll give you a quick example to make it a lot more understandable. So let's think of what happens when we log into Netflix. Netflix says that for each login request, they generate about 250 to 300 requests downstream, meaning each login that the user is doing is not only verified against a database or something. They want to give us the continue watching, our list, our history, what's trending, what's new. They even customize the thumbnails and so on. So it looks something like this. We have a request reaching a server, pod, container, doesn't matter. And then we asynchronously generate multiple requests to the backend services. Now, for example, what's trending and what's new are not user dependent. So they could be cached and returned very fast to our server. Now, on this machine right here, we have the ability to process what's trending and what's new for a particular user that has sent the original login request. But no matter how fast we do that, we're still waiting on what's trending, what's new, the continue watching and the history and the list and everything, because those are user dependent. And so they have to query the database and will take probably on average a lot longer. Now, this would all be good and fun if the organization itself had only one user per machine on the back end, but this would also mean that our cost would have been insane. So what everyone does is processing anywhere between tens of thousands of requests at the same second. And so there could be a different user for whom all of the data has been returned, But how can you tell the operating system that this is a different user for which all of the data is ready? Let's return a response as fast as we can. And right now, the unfortunate truth is that we can't. The only thing that we can do is differentiating between the different processes on the machine itself. But this is not enough. As in this case, we have to differentiate between our different users or different threads of the machine and so on. Which means that right now, most organizations are running anywhere between 10 to 40% utilization, even in the cloud and especially on-prem. And it means that not only we're not getting the best performance out of our machines, which means that we're missing anywhere between 2 to 5x untapped performance, we're also wasting anywhere between 60 to 90% of our infrastructure just on over provisioning. So how Granulate solves the issue? Well, we ask the user to give us that optimization function. So each of us has monitoring in place. We monitor for throughput, latency, IOPS. All of that we already have set in place because these are our SLAs. This is the customer experience. So we want to make sure that the user gets the best experience. And so we already know what to follow. Once we set that with Granulate, Granulate already hooks into all the contendable resources on the machine itself to optimize it according to that optimization function. This improves the performance and we can reduce compute costs. And we'll show that in just a second. Now, as I mentioned, there was no way to tell the machine how to do that. We had to create our own way to do that. This is for our kernel module and runtime module, because sometimes the runtimes make a lot of the decisions, not just the machine itself. But as it works for any Linux machine, it works anywhere between bare metal instances all the way to multi and hybrid cloud environments. And since each of us have we all have our own way of deploying our production code, our code to production and our applications and so on. So Granulate actually hooks into that. This could be Ansible, Chef, Puppet, Terraform, CloudFormation, and so on. We all have a way to deploy our own application, so Granulate can be deployed alongside that. Now, as for any initiatives in the past, Granulate is actually pretty complementary. Because even if you've done right sizing in the past, post Granulate installation, you might be able to do right sizing again, whether it's the instance itself or just the size of the cluster. This is sort of a use case heat map where you can see where Granulate benefits the most and how much time to benefit you're expected to see. So you can see with Java, Clojure, Kotlin, all the JVM-based applications, take about 1 week and you see 40 to 60% performance improvement. With Go, Python, and Ruby, it takes about 2 weeks because they don't have something that's called a full reflection that JVM enables. And with Node, which is completely asynchronous, it takes about 3 weeks. For big data analytics, what we're seeing is anywhere between 25 to 40% gains in job completion time when it comes to Spark, Hadoop, when it comes to Elasticsearch, and Presto SQL, you also see huge performance gains. Stream processing, so Kafka and stuff, so consumers and producers depend mostly on the runtime, and Kafka brokers see anywhere between 10 to 25% performance improvements. We have here a simple case where you can see what happens when you install Granulate. This is actually from a Datadog monitoring system. So you can see they marked here where they installed Granulate, and you can see that latency has gone down, way down, which means that their own customer service has gone way up. And you can see that not only the 95 percentile was reduced by 70%, they actually had 90% less timeouts, which means that in overall, they ended up with 75% reduction in cluster size and costs, saving over $1.5 million just on this service. A different example where you can also see that, this is actually a Grafana, not a Datadog, but you can see that median latency has gone down even though the machines are doing a lot more work. And we've got a lot more headroom in case traffic goes up. As mentioned, a POC is super short. you can start with just one machine, one service. It doesn't have to be the entire service. You can see it on one machine, improved versus the rest, as we've seen in the former example here. And then we can decide on whether or not to deploy it further. Thank you. And please either visit our URL here or send us an email at asaf.ezra@granulate.io. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Asaf. Thank you very much for your presentation. Next, I would like to welcome our last speaker for the day, Mr. Michael Nassie. He is Sales Territory Manager APAC from Spot. Welcome, Michael.
Hello everybody. Pleasure to be here. My name is Michael. I'm based out of Singapore, and I'm here to talk about Spot by NetApp. I represent I lead the sales in the ASEAN territory and the rest of APAC. Very happy to be here. Can we start?
Go ahead.
Oh, I already have control. Okay. So yeah, very nice meeting you. Great sessions, by the way, by the two presenters before me, and I think it's all around the same subject. The beginning of the discussion was about how companies, I guess you as well, are taking your services and workloads into the cloud, or maybe you were already in the cloud, you were born in the cloud, and now it's all about how you can actually automate, how you can scale, and also how can you be more effective. And this is why Spot by NetApp is about. The idea is that we provide a platform for continuous automation and continuous optimization on the public cloud. The idea is to give you the best workloads that you want, always available, always scalable, and at the lowest possible cost. So just, very high level, we all know, especially since COVID started, about the decentralization of offices, of companies, and moving everything into the cloud. Especially just to better scale. And the numbers are just here, but we see that with this very, very much increased adoption here, there are also some problems. And the problems on very high level are probably one of two. It's either a lack of internal expertise, or even not even say expertise, but time, because it's very time consuming. And also the nature of the cloud. There are architectural changes, but more than anything else, there is process complexity, and there is always change. Constant change is what's going on in the cloud. When you mix all of those, it will actually contribute a lot to wastage on the cloud, on the assets and the resources that you are using in the cloud, and ultimately you will be overspending. When we say overspending, it could be either that you plan for one budget, but you ended up with a much higher budget, or that you had a budget and everything is okay, but for the same budget, you could have done so much more on the cloud. Now, just about what is Spot as a company. So we were founded around 6 years ago by a couple of IDF compute infrastructure specialists from the computer division called Mongam. From the get-go, we offered a SaaS, enterprise cloud infrastructure automation platform. We were embedded in 2020, right about the time we actually acquired NetApp as a customer. And we have sold a solution to NetApp, and we were able to save around 70% of their compute costs on AWS. And as a result, the company acquired us. Now, the two main things is, again, right now, we're still an Israeli company, but we're not a startup anymore. We're just a part of a global company. We have offices in 10 different locations all over the world. The main R&D is still in Israel, but we have representatives all over the world. I manage the ASEAN front, and we actually have 3 offices just in Asia. The second thing is all about the proof. I mean, this is what we came here to do. We came here to automate and also reduce a lot the cloud spend. And I think this is the prime example, how we met a customer, we sold the solution, and they were so happy about it, they were actually acquired the company. Now, what exactly is a continuous optimization? So everybody here, I think, have mentioned about CI and CD, DevOps, CI and CD pipeline. Everybody knows today the methodology is to continuously integrate, continuously deploy 2 times a day, 4 times a day, 15 times a day. And the main thing right now is to make sure that you can develop as fast as possible, test and deploy as fast as possible. But what happens the day after you actually deploy something? And when it's just there, it's operating. This is where we introduce how we can call it continuous optimization. because the idea is that as soon as you are deploying something on the cloud, and it could be any kind of the cloud that you see here, we're a multi-cloud company, through our APIs, we are able to actually continuously automate and optimize it. And basically what we're doing here, and the main business drivers and differentiator of what we do is this, because there are a lot of initiatives to do optimization on the cloud. Everybody wants to save costs, but usually there's a lack of streamlined process and an automated process, especially when we talk about, you know, the balancing between making sure that your application is there, that your service availability is there, but that you're always very, very optimized. And this is because you need to have it automated. So the first thing that we do in our solution is that no matter what kind of architecture you're running right now on the cloud, it could be from monolithic to cloud native services, or even if you're transitioning from one to another, our coverage is always automated. It's an automated optimization solution, it's continuous, and the savings is actually up to 80% on the compute side of things. The second thing is how long and what kind of an effort it is just to make sure that you're automated and optimized. Because if it will take you 3 months or 6 months to get some results, it will take a lot of time and effort. It will actually defocus your engineering teams from deploying and innovating, then maybe it's not worth it. And this is why our solution is a turnkey enterprise grade solution, and the time to value is well under 30 days. We have customers that were able to actually automate their pre-production environment with us over a single night. They would let it run for, let's say, a week or two just to see that everything is working as far. And then on a single night, they were able to actually integrate the entire production grade platform. And because I mentioned production grade, the idea of our SaaS solution is actually to cover you end to end, not just on the architectural level, but also on the environment level, all the way from staging, dev, test, QA, all the way up to production, because we can actually guarantee the service availability, no matter what kind of measure we will take. And also we provide a 24/7 support team, which is very proactive, and you can actually get a response from an engineer within 60 seconds, no matter where you operate. And this is very important because especially if you want to scale globally, we support all of the global regions, both on AWS, Azure, and GCP. And also our support team is spread around, and they will be able to help you no matter where you're actually facing any kind of an issue. The last thing is just about business. Because we're so confident about our product and because we are success-oriented, we can actually provide a business model which is fully result-based. Because the idea is that our business model is always based out of the savings just to guarantee the ROI. Meaning that the only thing that we actually will be billing you for is when we are able to automate and actually provide you and show you the actual results and the decreased costs. Now, just about how we do it. So first of all, we have more than 1,500 customers. There's actually closer to 2,000 customers all across the world. But the most important thing that I want you to see is how much data we can actually manage. Because we are managing more than 5 billion compute running hours across all of the global regions of primarily AWS, but also Azure and GCP. And we're managing close to 1 million concurrent nodes per month across globally. What we're able to do with this, because we have gathered this data for 6 years already, is that we're able to come up with our own unique algorithm. And we'll show you how it works. But just about the product itself, if this is your cloud of choice, we actually have two main flavors. One is for FinOps automation. Imagine a situation where you actually cannot touch your infrastructure no matter what, because of either business or technical requirements. The other one is DevOps, and DevOps is actually infrastructure provisioning. It will actually interact with your workloads that are running on the cloud with your infrastructure. And over there, we have two flavors. One is for virtual machines. The other one is for cloud native and containerized workloads. But we provide all of this under the same umbrella, and we will actually be able to help you identify the specific use cases and the specific workloads and choose the best automation mechanism based on that. Now, when we talk about the cloud right now, it's very important just to mention that there are three main ways to actually buy assets on the cloud. There's on-demand, which is just list price, pay as you go. It's very, very expensive, but you get the SLA. The second thing is reserve capacity, where you just can commit to a certain amount of usage for at least 1 year or maybe 3 years. In return, you get a discount, but it's based on the assumption that you will be using it 24/7, no matter what. The last thing is excess capacity, which is called spot instance, spot VM. The idea there is that actually you will get the exact same servers, the exact same performance as on demand. You will get it as a shelf item, so you don't have to commit for anything, but you don't get any SLA. In return for not getting SLA, meaning that the cloud provider can actually evict you within 2 minutes, you will get significant discounts, anywhere between 70 to 90%. Now, the idea is that Spot will actually take continuous real-time decisions and automate the best purchase model based on anything that you do here, because we can actually utilize every kind of purchase model that you have on any cloud. And what we're able to do is actually this. Because we gather all of this data from our global customer base, we've developed our own machine learning algorithm to actually score any type of machine in any availability zone globally, both on AWS, Azure, and GCP. And we assign just a health score between 0 to 100. At the same time, because we will be able to read the actual configuration of your workloads, just metadata, we will never touch the service, never the application, just the metadata of the infrastructure. What we're able to do is actually application-driven provisioning. And the idea is that if right now your service demands will go sometimes up, sometimes down, you could have spikes, you can have peaks, you can have lows, primarily you will be provisioning either on on-demand instances or in some cases on commitments, but you will probably be very, very homogeneous in the terms of the infrastructure that you're using. And also, to be honest, you will probably be very, very over provisioning and definitely overpriced. What we're able to do is application-driven provisioning. We take just the real-time requirements of your service, how much CPU, how much memory you need to operate, and then we need to see what kind of application you're running. Based on that, we will automatically and continuously match the best type of infrastructure, whether it's excess capacity, reserve capacity, or maybe fall back to on-demand just to assure the service level availability. But in all likelihood, more than 95% of the running hours will be off list price. This will actually allow you to get an average of around 73% cost reduction compared to running it on demand. Now, the result of this is this. We can actually help you to accelerate your cloud migration process, because I'm sure there are a mix of companies here and there are a mix of workloads. And on average, a company, unless it was just born in the cloud over the last 5 years, and even such of those companies would still have different mixtures of architectures. There will be some which are stateless, some which are more legacy, traditional, standalone machines, which are stateful, definitely database layers, everything like that, and especially everything that you have moved from on-premise as a lift and shift. The idea is that if, on average, such a company, when they try to do a cloud migration process and a modern application process, it will take them around, let's say, 5 years, 3 to 5 years, depends on the scale. We're enabling customers to accelerate their cloud migration journey and also save a lot continuously every step of the way. Because we can start by giving you just a FinOps automation tool that will save you between 40 to 50% just on the get-go, no infrastructure interference, and also the maximum amount of flexibility with whatever commitments that you try to do on the cloud. And then on the application level basis, whatever applications you actually want to modernize, or it's already up in there, it's already stateless or a cloud native application, and you want to consider the DevOps automation with us, then we can just incorporate one of our other tools. It's called Ocean for containerized environments and Elastic Group for a VM-based application. But the highest high-level idea here is that no matter what kind of application and what kind of compute infrastructure you're running on the cloud, we provide you something we call a serverless experience. The idea is that we take care of the provisioning, we take care of the actual service level availability, making sure that you're running and your services are always up, and we make sure that you're as cost effective as possible between those three different mechanisms. You as a customer should be concerned about innovation, about growing, about deploying more and more services, and also just making sure that your business applications and services are up and they're wearing the best well. We will take the pressure of actually maintaining the infrastructure off your hands. This is basically it. I think maybe we can go to a Q&A section.
Thank you very much, Michael. So now you have, our dear audience, you have heard from all of the cloud speakers and our guest speakers. And I would like to welcome now our speakers to the last portion. We have a few minutes here for some Q&A questions. If the audience has any more questions, you can type them in the Q&A box, and we can also get back to you, compile all the questions and answers, and share them with you later. But for now, I have one question that I will ask from you now, from all the speakers. What are the key collaboration criteria that you are looking for from Singapore technology partners? If, for example, Michael wants to start.
I was on mute, I'm sorry. So yeah, that's a great question. The question is what kind of criteria we're looking for technology partners. So we are a very, very tech-oriented company. We're also a primary partners with both AWS and also Azure. When we look for partners, we were looking for partners who either already manage or they have visibility to customers who are running on the cloud, and they would like to do some kind of a project to do automation, modern application, or just save costs. Or also, we're working with a lot of managed service providers who are actually managing their customers already, and they would also want to incorporate some of those practices with us. I'm more than happy to actually discuss this offline or one-on-one together with my partner account manager in the region. Please feel free to reach out to me via email and we'll set something up.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Michael. And now, if we have Asaf or Lior, if you want to reply to the same question.
I think it's very similar to what Michael said. In general, Granulate is looking to partner with partners who are looking to help customers with their SLAs, with their performance. It's not all about costs, and we know it's not always in the cloud. And Granulate would love to partner with you on things that are usually not as easy to do, gain more performance with no code changes and no new hardware. Is something that for a lot of customers would be very compelling, especially when it takes a huge amount of time to sort of refresh all your hardware in your data center. And also when it comes to putting a lot of the efforts in the cloud when it comes to performance and costs. Go ahead, Lee.
Adding on top of the two other presenters here, I think we're using basically the similar phrases here. It's not only about costs, and it's about optimization of the manpower. It's about optimization of how the organization spends money, and not only on optimizing the cost itself. And by using our solution, we're looking to actually improve how monitoring is done. It's not about actually reducing the amount of hours that you need to invest, but it's actually covering a lot more of the monitoring space that currently it is not economically viable to be monitored. So we're looking to partner with organizations that are looking towards that are looking that they can improve upon these areas, and we can help them then increase the cycles of release, increase the service availability, and increase the amount of times that they can release software with confidence that nothing goes wrong. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lior. And to give some last remarks, if we can have Mr. Raju Chellam. Thank you.
Yeah, so coming from Singapore and having been to Israel often, plus working closely with Israeli companies, I think there are 3 areas where Singapore companies can actually benefit hugely from Israel. One is AI. There's a lot of work in cutting edge AI that Israeli companies are doing, so we should keep an eye out for that. The second is cybersecurity. As the whole world knows, cybersecurity leader in the world is Israel, and we should probably collaborate with them more closely on very focused cybersecurity to cut down the amount of hackings or even potential hackings. And finally, cloud. Because Israel is so small and like Singapore, and they look at a market outside of Israel, which is the whole world. And they have experience working with tough customers in the US, in Europe, in Asia, in Africa, as well as in the Middle East. So we could get a huge amount of benefit by collaborating and working with Israeli companies more as partners and take that solutions across ASEAN on a joint partnership basis. That's what I would like to say. And we at SBF, as well as Singapore Computer Society, as well as SGTech, would be very happy to make the connections happen with Israeli companies. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Raju, and thank you to all our speakers. Thank you to all our speakers. Thank you to our co-organizer, Embassy of Israel. Thank you to the ambassador, Sagi Karni, and to all our partners. Thank you very much. As a last request, if our attendees would like to just scan this QR code and let us know how we did today, give any feedback you may have. And as I mentioned earlier, all the slides will be shared with you later on the Singapore Business Federation Global Connect website. And also this presentation, this webinar will be uploaded at the YouTube channel. So that is all from us for today. Thank you very much and have a good rest of the day. Thank you.